sure. As you can see, it's bumper.
Got a bird's eye view, and it certainly doesn't look good from up here.
The tank is full, the engine's humming. Those wide open roads are beckoning. So sit back and get ready for Motoring 88. Brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. This week on Motoring 88.
Wherever we go, or ever who comes to run with us, I think you'll find the finest short track drivers anywhere in the country.
There's not very many of them left because after all, they stopped making them over 20 years ago.
Hello everybody and welcome to Motoring 88. Are you in for a treat this week? We are in a car showroom, but not just any showroom. This showroom is home to the car with the magic name Ferrari. We're at Gentry Lanes in Toronto, one of only 3 authorized dealers in Canada. The others are located in Montreal and in Vancouver. And later on, we're going to take a peek at these amazing machines. But first, we're going to join Steve Grant. Now, Steve has been in all sorts of racing cars this year, jet cars, Indy cars, midget cars, but this week he is with probably the most well-known racing car, the stock car.
One of the attractions of stock car racing is that the fans in the grandstand can relate to the cars on the track because they look a lot like the cars in their driveway. But the similarity ends right there.
Well, one of these cars in Canada is about $60,000 without the motor. It's a pretty high dollar series to run in, and we don't run very much. We only run about 3 times a year in it, and we just can't afford to run any longer in that.
This is a 1988 Pontiac Grand Prix. The body's not a steel body, it's a fiberglass body, and they contoured it a little different to make it go through the air better, and chop the roof a little bit, and just everything to make it appear a little better as a race car and for aerodynamics. So it's not like your conventional car at all. Cosmetic-wise, they look very close to the cars on the street, but underneath they're an out-and-out race car.
These ASA cars are definitely built for speed and not comfort. As you can see, the cockpit area is very sparse, including the dashboard. But one thing this car does have that is very interesting are these 2 brake gauges. They can tell you the hydraulic pressure in either your front or rear brakes, and in fact you can adjust it during the race if you think one is lower than the other. As for air conditioning, it doesn't exist in this car unless you count this air duct right here. The cockpit will be home for 300 grueling laps under extremely humid conditions as the American Speed Association has brought its traveling show to Cayuga Speedway just outside of Hamilton, Ontario.
We're halfway through the season. This kicks off the second half of the 1988 campaign. We've had 7 races so far, 4 different winners. Only Harold Fair has captured 3 checkered flags so far this season. ASA has proven to be the most competitive stock car racing season in the country.
Brock, what exactly are you doing here?
I'm weighing the cars here. ASA have a very tight scrutinization on the rules here. Everyone asks, what is the minimum, what is the maximum? Most of the weights range from 27.75 all the way to 29.25. The norm being about a 28.50 for a Chev Camaro, which what most everybody runs.
Well, ASA is a very competitive association. I think that wherever we go, or ever who comes to run with us, I think you'll find the finest short track racing, the finest short track drivers anywhere in the country. I mean, you can go down south, you can go out east, or go wherever you want. And if you race against ASA guys, they're going to be there. Harold
Fair is one of the hottest racers on the ASA circuit. He starts the Molson Export 300 from the outside of row 1.
300 laps is a long way. We don't want the leaders to get out of sight or anything, and if we can be the leader, and be comfortable, then we'll go out there. But 300 is a long way, and if you're not around at the end, that doesn't pay anything.
The fiberglass bodies certainly do take a beating, and we got proof of that on the first lap. Heading into the first turn, Randy McDonald strikes the wall, and he takes along some company.
Racing is dangerous, but I think the more that you do it, the more comfortable you feel with it. I feel more comfortable in this car than I do on the streets, because on the streets you've got people coming north, south, east, and west, and you're running. You never know what's going to happen. On the racetrack, you're with professionals, and they're all going the same way. You know, when you're going 200 miles an hour like Richard Petty and all these guys do in NASCAR, there's nothing you can do when something happens there. All you do is hang on and wait for the car to stop. Where here, we can do a little bit with them, you know, we can stop them a little bit, and we're not going, you know, 180, we're going 120, 130, you know, at our top speed.
Despite the manageable speeds, most of the 300 laps were run under caution flag, making for an extremely long race. Veteran Dick Trickle took the checkered flag with Harold Fair hanging on for second place.
Harold, obviously a really hot day out there. You can just take a look at your face, you can tell that, but just came up a little bit short today.
Well, things didn't go just right today. Had some problems that developed. We don't know what happened. We lost the brakes early in the race, and it just wasn't our day, but we finished second. We can't complain about that.
And who says racers aren't athletes?
All right.
Still ahead on Motoring 88, making waves.
I think we're about to lose one cameraman.
Next on Motoring 88, Toyota traction in the dirt.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. The engine in the new Quaker State Porsche IndyCar develops 750 horsepower. That's why it takes Quaker State oil with new QSX to protect it. At 11,000 RPM, engine temperatures soar. Quaker State's new advanced QSX formula is proven to run clean for unbeatable protection. And the new QSX formula that protects this engine on the track is the same Quaker State you buy right off the shelf. Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want a V6 engine. A powerful V6 engine. What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want to help someone move.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive, we go off the beaten track to look at the new 1988 Toyota 4Runner. It's equipped with their new V6 engine and has a four-wheel drive capability. This week we're not going through the pylons because this type of vehicle just isn't suited for running through that sort of course. Toyota billed this as being one of the very rugged four-wheel drives around, and thus far it's proven itself to be as rugged as they bill it. With this new generation of off-road vehicles, one of the things that you notice is it's got everything in it that you'd expect to have in any good road sedan. And yet, as you can see, it'll put up with just about anything you want to put it through. I think we're about to lose one cameraman. One thing I should point out, if you anticipate needing the four-wheel drive, you must physically get out and manually lock the front hubs. Most of the competition features shift on the fly. It's just a matter of preference as to whether you can be bothered to do this or you need the shift on the fly capability. When you do set the manual locking front hubs, once you've done that, you can shift between two and four-wheel drive virtually at will. Now we're in two-wheel drive, and that's why the wheels are spinning. Now we're back into four-wheel drive and we won't get stuck anymore. Now that we're on the pavement, the suspension that gave us good sure footing off-road, I'm finding it a little bit too stiff for my liking. It's just on the firm side, a little bit too much on the firm side. A lot of the minor bumps and road imperfections you feel, it's really quite a bone-jarring ride if you're on broken pavement. To Toyota's credit, the 5-speed is a very smooth shifting box, not at all truck-like as I was expecting. Clutch beautiful. Nice modulation, very light in operation, no problem at all. You cannot drive this car like a sports car. If you do, it's going to turn turtle on you. It's just basically not a sports car and shouldn't be driven that way. The center of gravity is high, and so if you push it into a corner too much, you're liable to find yourself on your side, which is not where you want to be. This week's pet peeve is now I've finished with my fun, I've got to go and wash this thing. But seriously, to get anything out of the back, you have to wind the window down. When it's all the way down, unlock it, and release the handle. In winter, can you imagine when the lock is frozen and the glass is frozen in the channel? You're never going to get anything out. Anyway, that aside, let's go and see how I rated the 88 4Runner. Although the 4Runner has a high center of gravity, there was little nosediving when it came to the braking. They were short and predictable, and so I awarded 7 out of 10. Any multi-purpose vehicle suffers in the handling department. However, the 4Runner is one of the better ones I've tested, even though I commented on the suspension being a little too firm for my liking. The new V6 engine gives the 4Runner what it's lacked in all previous models, and that, put simply, is power. The interior noise level is again within acceptable limits given the type of tires. At 21 miles per gallon, you're going to have to dig deep to keep the tank full.
Hopping on one foot makes a lot of sense, but not driving an automatic. Driving an automatic with one foot makes no sense at all, and we'll tell you why later on Behind the Wheel. Can I stop hopping now?
What do you put in there if it needs oil? Well, we're going to go to the oil rack and show you.
When Motoring 88 returns, Bill grades your oil.
With me now is Michel Camilleri of Gentry Lane Automobiles here in Toronto. And Michel, this must be the ultimate for a car salesman, to be selling what many people consider to be the ultimate in cars, and that's the Ferrari.
Yes, they are. They're a very special automobile, and they're made in very small numbers.
How many models are there available in Canada?
There's 2 models available. There's the 328, like the one we're sitting in now, and there's the Testarossa. Retail price tag on that right now is 230,000 Canadian dollars.
I'd like to look under the hood of that maybe later on.
Not a problem.
I know somebody also who would like to look under the hood, and that is our resident mechanic on Motoring 88, Bill Gardiner, and Bill is standing by.
This week we're going to talk about motor oil, what it does in the engine, why it's important to change it, and how to determine the correct grade and type of engine oil that you should use in your car's engine. I just can't believe how many cars come in nowadays down significant quantities of oil, 2 and 3 liters low on a car that only holds 4 or 5 liters of oil. It's really important to have the correct amount of crankcase oil in there. The light on your dash will not indicate how low the oil level is. It only tells you oil pressure. What do you put in there if it needs oil? Well, we're going to go to the oil rack and show you. 10W30 is a number that just about everybody has come to know as being synonymous with motor oil. But what do these numbers actually mean? Well, these are all multi-grade engine oils. This one, an SAE 10W30. That means it acts like a 10-weight engine oil when it's cold and acts like a 30-weight when it's hot. The 10W40 acts like a 10 when it's cold and a 40 when it's hot. And we also have a 20W50 oil, a thicker oil that's usually used for engines that are a little bit tired. SAE 5W30 is another very popular engine lubricant. It's a specified lubricant year-round for many of today's new cars. It's a very lightweight lubricant, and it flows readily at low temperatures, so it assists engine starting in cold weather, and it reaches all the moving parts of your engine very quickly at low temperatures to give them that protection they need on startup. There are 2 bodies that rate the performance of engine oils. The SAE, or Society of Automotive Engineers, rate engine oils strictly by their viscosity, and they rate this one to be a 10W30. The API, or American Petroleum Institute, rate engine lubricants by their performance. Currently, their highest designation, as this one is SG. Also, we see that this one is an energy-conserving engine oil. Look for this label when you're buying a quart of oil to add to your car or change your engine oil. There's no hard, fast rule as to how often you should change your engine oil, but if you consult your owner's manual, you'll find various schedules in there, and you can determine which category you fall into and how often you should change the engine oil. It's very important to change the various filters on your engine. part of your engine oil change should be replacement of the engine oil filter. If you don't change this filter, it contains approximately 1 liter of oil. That'll be dirty oil that would remain in your engine. So every time you change the oil, change the engine oil filter as well. The air filter should be examined as well. Inspect this element. If it isn't clean, replace it. And the crankcase breather element, this small gauze filter that's clipped into the side of the air cleaner. This filters all the air that enters the crankcase via the PCV valve. And if you're changing your own lubricants, make sure that you dispose of the waste oil properly. Don't just pour it down the drain. You can return it to various oil change centers, garages, gas stations, and they will properly recycle this oil. It's harmful to the environment as well as your skin. Until next week, I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 88.
And now, behind the wheel with Charlie Goodman.
Left foot braking, based on the fact that this takes longer than this. At 100 kilometers an hour, you are traveling 100 feet a second. If we can apply the brakes a tenth of a second sooner, then we have saved 10 feet of travel. That might be the difference between life and death. I'll show you how it's done. In a normal mode, when you are driving down the road with the throttle depressed, should you have to react to a potential crisis or an emergency, you would apply the brakes with your right foot, which takes a certain amount of time. We'll count down to a stop. 3, 2, 1, stop. Now I'll show you that once more. Driving along the road, 3, 2, 1, stop. Now the concept of left foot braking is based on the fact that sometimes we find ourselves in such congested traffic areas, maybe it's a downtown city area, perhaps it's out on the highway, and all of a sudden you're surrounded by traffic where there's virtually nowhere to go in the event of a crisis. It simply means that you have to put on the brakes and work them as best you can. In order to stop as quickly as possible, it just makes sense that the sooner we're on the brake, the better it is. So we're going to move our left foot over and have it right near the brake pedal, sitting on the heel, on the carpet, with the left foot just above the brake pedal. Now let's make certain it is not touching the brake pedal, merely above the brake pedal, ready to react when called upon. So we're going to demonstrate by having the throttle down to the floor, traveling along the road. We'll count down to a stop. Here we go. Throttle is depressed, and 3, 2, 1, stop. Once again, 3, 2, 1, stop. The fact is, the brake pedal is already on and the brakes are activated before the right foot has come right off the throttle. We have learned that we can save the average person about a tenth of a second in getting the brakes applied. That tenth of a second could mean a big difference between maybe even life and death, folks. We suggest you give it a try. Left foot braking, it may be a little awkward to you at first, but it will make you a better driver. Now we want to be very specific about this. The left foot is definitely held above the brake pedal. Close, but definitely not touching the pedal. Here we go. Throttle is depressed, and 3, 2, 1, stop. Some people have the impression that this is difficult to do because they think that they do not have the sensitivity required in their left foot to execute this maneuver. But we don't think that is so. In all of the years we have been in driver education, we have yet to have a student who did not walk into the classroom using both feet. They learned a long time ago to separate the functions of left foot first, then right, left, right. Well, left foot braking is exactly the same thing. It is stop, go, left, right, stop, go, left, right, left.
You must get so many stares with this car.
Whether you're on the water or on the land, always.
It's a car. It's a boat. It's next on Motoring 88.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. The engine in the new Quaker State Porsche Indy car develops 750 horsepower. That's why it takes Quaker State oil with new QSX to protect it. At 11,000 RPM, engine temperatures soar. Quaker State's new advanced QSX formula is proven to run clean for unbeatable protection. And the new QSX formula that protects this engine on the track is the same Quaker State you buy right off the shelf. Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
With me again is Michel Camilleri, and as promised, we're going to look under the hood of a Ferrari. And in this case, we've got the Testarossa?
Ferrari Testarossa.
And what are we looking at?
The car is powered by a 5-liter flat 12, twin overhead cam, 4-valve per cylinder, so the car has 48 valves. Puts out about 390 horsepower, top speed in the vicinity of 180 miles an hour.
And I bet you don't drive these in the winter.
No, you don't. Most people put them away for the winter time.
I'll bet you I know another place you never drive a Ferrari, and that is in the water, which leads us nicely into our next story with Sandra Neal. And you guessed it, she has a story on a car that goes not only on land, but in the water.
If you own a convertible, you're probably the envy of most drivers in the summertime. This convertible belongs to Toronto entrepreneur Ken McGowan. And not only does it take him to the beach, but it puts him in the water. Woo!
The stares that Ken gets when he puts his West German amphi-car in water are too numerous to count. This 4-seater Triumph engine wonder car has got to be one of the most unusual vehicles on 4 wheels.
It's got a hull. It's a completely sealed hull, and so the same as a boat. It's registered as a car and a boat. So if you see the numbers on the side, those are the numbers that all boats must bear.
So when you're in the water, you're a boat.
That's right. And now, of course, you have to comply with all the boating regulations, and you have to be equipped to be a boat. Part of that equipment is life jackets, one for every person in the boat, which we have. Paddles. I have paddles under the front seat. I have everything that you're required to have in a boat.
How fast can it go? I guess I should say, how fast can it go in water and on land?
Well, I think about 10 knots on the water, and on land, 50, 55 miles an hour.
The manufacturer that produced these amphibious vehicles was actually named Amphi-car. Established in the 1950s, 50,000 vehicles were built and sold in a 10-year period. But the company fell into bankruptcy, mainly because Amphi-cars were selling for less than they cost to produce. In those days, the price tag was $3,500.
It's bigger than say, a Volkswagen. So it's like a compact, the size of a compact car, I'd say. And very economical on gasoline, and a well-built car, really. A chap drew alongside of me, a young fellow, and said, "Do you want to race? Come on, I'll give you a race." And I said, "Why, sure, I'll race you. I'll race you from here to Center Island." He didn't participate. When you bring it into the water, you put it in low gear, that is the gear that moves the wheels, and you also put the gear on that turns the props, the 2 propellers at the back. And you bring it into the water with both the wheels turning and the propellers, and you drive in until the propellers take over. When it floats, it just floats off.
You must get so many stares with this car.
Whether you're on the water or on the land, always. You know, there's people along the shore stop and take pictures of you and run and get their camera. Children particularly are fascinated with it.
Why don't you think we see more amphi-cars in the water?
Well, there's not very many of them left because after all, you know, they stopped making them over 20 years ago, and that's quite a time for a car to last. But the few that are left are in the hands of collectors, and I guess they hang on to them.
You're not going to sell yours, are you?
Not a chance. Not a chance. They haven't printed that much money yet.
Next week, a special edition as we look back on the best of Motoring 88, including a few surprises.
Come on! Hold on a sec.
My goodness, car's full of dust, dirt, or what have you. We have to do that again.
Well, that's it for this week, and I want to thank Michel Camilleri and everybody here at Gentry Lane Automobiles for their cooperation. Next week, we've got a real special show. Make sure you join us. Until then, I'm Brad Diamond for Motoring 88.
Brad, do you want to buy this?
Michelle, I'll think about it overnight.
Okay.
So call me a dreamer.
If you have any suggestions or questions, drop us a line at Motoring 88, 379 Danforth Avenue, Toronto, M4K 1P1. Motoring 88 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.